Good morning. So for those who doesn't know me, my name is Kashin, and I've been practicing at the Sonoma Mountain Zen Center for 20 years or so. I'm a resident, and I live here with my husband, Jose, and we have a son. He's 15 years old. Um, he's with his friends downtown somewhere now. Um, Today I would like to talk about the Nyohoe, and it's a okesa, that the black one I'm wearing, and I thought it was very appropriate to talk about the okesa or the Nyohoe, since on Monday, this Monday, we are starting a sewing session that will last for 5 days. Not one day less or one day more is actually prescribed. It's supposed to, for 9-row okesa or nyohoe, it should last for 5 days. You should be done within 5 days. So I will give a little background of what Buddha's robe, what that actually is, and a little bit of the history and what you can expect to do at the sewing session. And this time the sewing session is really special because it's in honor of Nyose, who's going to be is our new coming abbot, and we will have a big ceremony which is called Sinsan Chiki, a mountain seed ceremony on September 2nd. But it's not just on September 2nd, it's the big day, but it's already happening, so it's leading all the way up. And especially when the summer Ango starts in August, that's when we like even further, turn up that fire. So the Nyohoe is a okesa. Okesa is a Buddha's robe, and O is a honorific, respectful way of saying kesa. But Nyohoe is different from kesa because kesa you can buy at a store, and it's maybe it's machine made. Most of it maybe is finished up by hand. And sure, it follows the rules of how many rows and fabric and so forth, but it's nothing like a nyohoe, because nyohoe, it means nyo means as it is, the truth as it really is, and ho is the Buddha's teaching, and a means rope. So it's something that is made according to the Buddha's teaching, but actually it is actually the teaching itself that you are wearing. Okay. And I will later talk about, there's a three fundamental rules according to the how to sew the nyohoe. So it's the material and the color and the size. So the robe is not a thing, okay? It's not an object. It is a robe truly of liberation, the robe of field of virtue. It's a robe of formlessness. So when it's worn, it truly becomes an amulet of enlightenment. An amulet protects you, not just you, but everybody else. Um, but mostly, anyways, okay, I will not go into that now. So this is like a excellent what is it compiled by Jean Selkirk, and is when the American sewing lineage started with the Sumyo Suzuki Roshi, and it's called Buddha's Robe is Sewn. It has a lot of great quotes and a little bit instruction, but it's not the sewing book itself. And in there, Suzuki Roshi is saying when he gave talks on the Buddha's robe that is sewn, he said back in maybe Ishun Yoshida Roshi came in 1970. That's where he gave the talk. So he's saying that our okesa is not just a symbol of our teaching, but it's actually the Dharma itself. But unless you have a proper understanding of it, of the robe or the rakusu, you see somebody wear, okay, the square, a bib that hangs around the neck. It's just something which you wear as a symbol of being a Buddhist. So unless you have a real experience of Zazen, it is just something which you wear. Okay, and it's not the Dharma itself. If someone were to take away my robe, I wouldn't have lost the robe. It is something which you always have with you. Like the third patriarch in India's robe, he was born with a robe, in fact. So for him, it was not possible to take it off. Yeah, his skin is already a robe. Those are the most important points when you want to have a proper understanding of the okesa. We have had many sewing retreats throughout the years, and in 2014, so we had a sewing session with the Reverend Shohaku Yoshimatsu, who has been training at the Suoji, a famous training temple, under Suken Narasaki Roshi. So he was there for more than 15 years. Maybe he's still back there. I lost a little bit track of where he is. Maybe in Europe. And he made over hundreds of cases. We invited him to come to lead a sewing session with the Yusho Sasaki, who is a bishop of Europe. I think she retired now, but anyways, so she came with Shohaku Yoshimatsu, and we were able then to make 5 no. Okay, what did I say? Yusho Sasaki, who now she is a disciple, a translator for Aoyama Roshi, which is a Roshi that's a head of Aichi Senmon Nisoto, the training temple in Nagoya, and she's highly respected, and actually now she holds like one of the highest position Heiji, right? So she will be sitting next to the Senji, the head of Eheji, the equivalent of the Vatican for Soto Zen. So Eheji, the main monastery there. So back then, the back room, the Godo, we would have the sewing retreat there again. We were sewing okesas for Jundo and Rei Eiko, and for Gita Myoji in Iceland. And I've been training at the IT Senmon Nisoto, the nunnery, Aoyama Roshi's nunnery, there for 5 months. And there, of course, one of the studies is like to sew the roxu. You always start with the roxu. And actually the roxu is like a miniature of the big rope that goes over the shoulder. And that came about, it was as late as the what is that period called, where everything get reformed. What is that period called? Meiji period. Thank you. And so to simplify things, then the kesa got small to the size of the roxu to make it easier to work, because they were wearing the 5 row. The different rows have the ropes have different rows, and the 5 row is meant for work. So that's why you see like the tensor and the servers, wearing the roxu with the cord around, because and rolled up the sleeves, they're ready to work. And then the 7 row kesa is for sitting zazen, for study, for service. And then there's the 9 row nyohoe, which we are making for a nyose. It's a more formal one, is for special ceremonies, and is also lined, and there's some other rules there. So for 8 days straight, non-stop, we were able to complete with 3 nyohoes and 4 sagu. Sagu is the one I'm sitting on. Is a bowing mat, and that came about. I don't know. It was the Shakyamuni Buddha himself, but when he was visiting places, he saw the cushions just laying all over the place. It was a mess, and so thought about maybe a way the monks could carry something, the cushion around, but it couldn't be too big if you have to carry it around. So something they could have over their arm, and so the saku became actually a sitting cloth for because back then they would be directly on the dirt. Okay. So that was 4 sagus. So that came to about 70 hours of sewing for 10 to 15 people. So many hours. And actually, just 5 minutes before the sesshin schedule was to end, the last stitch was closed. And so it was really beyond anybody's calculation. That's how the Dharma works. So in 1994, Shinko, right, then Tomoe came here. I gave the Nyohoe, or the sewing transmission, to Shinko. And you guys, I have a note that you did 5 cases even, so more. And it was a non-stop continuous sewing. up at with the whole community up at Roshi's house at the Inview. Okay, so that was Tomoe get a transmission to Shinko, and Tomoe herself got the transmission from Eishu Yoshida Roshi, and she was quite something and very unique. And not only she was the abbess of the Kisenji, right, abbess there, but she truly devoted her entire life to sewing of the Nyohoe and teach others to do so. So she was a big reviver of the sewing tradition, and her lineage did not come from anybody. I think she was a Dharma sister to Katagiri Roshi, and see if I can find the lineage. And actually, they were both disciples of Hamamoto.
Hashimoto.
Yeah, Hashimoto. Oh, I see. Eiko Hashimoto, right? And Hashimoto was the Dharma brother of Kishisawa Ion, who is the famous Shobogenzo scholar, and they themselves was the teacher or a disciple of Oka Sotan, which who founded Antaichi. So really a strong lineage of Zazen, and also a sewing, and Kurosawaki Roshi is also from that lineage. So yeah, so they were very serious, like the sewing was their Zazen. Yeah, I just before I came down, I was looking at the sign up sheet for the sewing retreat that starts on Monday. It's on the board near the kitchen door, and people signed up. But I say to you men, please sign up. There's no men or women. Tuesday and the other days. Monday is actually the day when it starts. So that's where there should be a lot of people. And if you take your zazen seriously, then you should come and sew, because it is the same. It's the practice of ekohensho, which is like turning the light inward. It's exactly like zazen. And if you want to test yourself in zazen in action, then you should come and sew. Okay, so men, please sign up. Also, it's not a sewing, it's not a woman thing. So that was a little bit about the lineage. Oh yeah, then let's talk a little bit about the Nyohoe itself, right? The three rules of material, color, and size. So the material was originally, it's called funzoe, and it's a cast of rags that was collected as garbage from the streets. Okay, it's called in Sanskrit. It's called pamsula, and pamsula means sweepings. So it's rags that's chewed by ox, or scorched by fire, or soiled by childbirth, or left at the graveyard. It's gnawed by rats. It's soiled by menstruation, or rags brought back from funerals, all the rags that was thought of being of no value was thrown in old days, Shakyamuni's days, was thrown on the street. So it got gathered, all the pieces that could be used, and it was colored in one color. So you couldn't differentiate between silk, cotton, linen, or any material. And later on, it became or also still today, that you can't find rags so much lying around on the street. Actually, as Suzuki Roshi said, one should not be too attached too attached to the rules, in a sense that in some countries you cannot find the rags because they actually use it. So they would not throw it out. And here we would maybe get rags by old clothes. We would go to Goodwill and get scraps, and that's perfectly fine too. And but sometimes we have to buy new material, or maybe new material is donated, so we gratefully accept and use it well. So since it's not a funzue as such, then you can actually stain it. There's a ceremony where you can stain it and purify it that way. And it's kind of interesting with the staining. Actually, it was originally done by distinguish the Shakyamuni's things from the others, right? But now it became so it became a way of purifying. And people are, as I talk, you're more than welcome to ask questions if something pops up. So the color, so the kasaya is another word for the nyohoe, right? But it actually refers to the color, and it means a muddy color. Okay, so so it's cloth dyed to a impure, a blended color that is hard to define, which does not create greed and jealousy from others. Also, dyeing this cloth into the okesa color means throwing one's body and mind and thought into the Buddha Dharma. So, so excuse me. So this muddy color is to not to have an attachment to the material, and that you can already think of there's many teachings around that. I was so lucky that I actually got to see a deep bluish black with a hint of green, and it was very hard to distinguish the color, and it was actually Dogen's favorite color. He himself made, I don't know, maybe it was a 24 panel nyohoe in that color that is called Seikoku. And I got to see it because Dogo Sensei, my sewing teacher at ITC Manisoto, boy, she knew in and out of the nyohoe. She was just like working incredibly fast. It was like, you can tell it was like a second nature. She made that many her whole life. And she had a picture of a Dogen's nyohoe, and because she went to a place where it was exhibit, and it had that uh, indefinable color of bluish black with a hint of green. Very beautiful, yeah. Which is of course not a beauty of like, yeah, it's hard to put words to it. So that said, then again, Suzuki Roshi was talking about sewing and in sewing and wearing the Buddhist robe and how it relates to our practice. In that June talk of 1971, he said, but you shouldn't think that a bright color robe could not be a robe for Shakyamuni Buddha. What it means is that whatever color it is, it could be a Buddhist robe. Only when you forget all about what color it is or what material it is made of can it be our robe. It could be silk, it could be linen, it could be cotton, but when we use it, it is not silk or cotton or linen. It is Buddha's robe. With this understanding, we make a robe. You may say that it is a Buddhist robe, but we do not make our robe just for ourselves. We are making something greater, which will include everything, which could be for everyone. Then the size is kind of interesting because it also have that indistinguishable, no, that's not the word, it kind of loose way of doing it, yet there's rules for it. And originally, of course, they didn't have a yardstick or anything like that. You would take the fabric and then you will put it on the shoulder and let it fall down. So about like, this much from the ankle, that will be the correct length, right? So that means it was individual determined, of course, of your height, right? So then to make the panels, we are using the measurement of something that's called Nabu-chu, which is like the measurement of the person who's going to receive the nyohoi, like from elbow to the tip of the middle finger, or it could also be from elbow to the middle finger of a fist. So I'm doing the hard work at home, trying to make a measurement that will fit Nyosei. And even though I have those measurements, because it's just about, I have to, tweak things here and there to make it come out right. And it's a little complicated. Okay, so the Nyohoi has okay, rows that goes this way, right? So it's 5, 7, or 9, or up to 24 is the largest, or the largest actually covers the whole universe. But so it's like a short. So we have those racks, the funsoes, the sweepings, and so we use the pieces in different ways. So some are short, some are long. So we have a long piece, 2 long pieces, 2 cho, it's called cho, and then tan is the smaller piece. And actually it represents delusion and enlightenment. So the luckiest thing is like the long pieces is our enlightenment, is our wisdom, and the short ones is our delusion. So that's the encouragement, right? So it repeats like this row by row, but then it's turned upside down. So when you have the delusion at the bottom, then the next row it goes up on the top, and then you have the wisdom pieces down this way. And it's because we don't know what is what, so everything is turned upside down, right, on purpose. So so this construction means that Buddha nature is neither big nor small, neither long nor short. A short piece does not always take a higher place on the top, and cannot judge that the top is more important because it is in a higher position, or the bottom is less important because it is in a lower position. A Buddha nature really permeates everywhere. What is short, and what is long of itself. So there's no difference between a long piece or short piece. Then uh, I would like to talk about the Kyakushi stitch. It's very important. So it's a stitch that you will see, all those little dots, right? It's like raindrops. So it's a tiny line, but it's so small that it appears as being a dots, like or raindrops. And the way is shown that you go forward. When you go forward, you go slightly back and down to go forward. So it's not like this and then fast be done, but it's like a one step to forward to go back. So it's like when Roshi said, like the life, like we don't go a straight line like this. What is seeming we are going back is actually going forward, right? So it's with this kind of symbolism and spirit that you throw yourself completely into the sewing each step at the time. And it's like the practice, just do one step at a time. And as I said before, is the ecohential there again, right? Turning your radiance inward as you go forward and go back, go forward and go back. So one of the instructions for sewing the Roxu or the Nyohoe, okay, the Kesa, it has many names, is to say the three refuge, the Sankimon, silently with each stitch. Is very important. So you say, I take refuge in the Buddha, then you make a stitch. I take refuge in the Dharma, and then another stitch. And I take refuge in the Sangha, another stitch. And if that seems to be hard to keep track of, when did I say Dharma and Sangha? You can also say, I take refuge in the Buddha, one stitch. I take refuge in the Buddha, like that. And ultimately, in a way, it's encouraged to say so. And but if you are 100% there sewing, you are taking refuge, but you don't have to say it, right? But it's good to thing to do, especially in the beginning. So I wrote like, so sewing is itself a meditation practice which unifies body, breath, and mind. And there's a quote from the sewing book. So even when the stitches seem endless, we focus on the details of the process. Despite preference and choices, when we just plunge in and let go of the outcome, those seamless moments arise when the needle and the stitches, the breathing and chanting just happen. So like with Oryoki this morning, so if you're really there, you can actually feel the needle go through the fabric. You might even be able to hear it. So so on the sign up list, it says no sewing experience is needed or something like that. It does not mean that if you never have sewn, then it's okay. Then don't worry. It actually means that if you are capable of being there and holding that needle and being present, then no experience is needed. You know? So Shinryu Kamatani Roshi was also very, very serious about the Nyoho sewing practice. Says in his book, his shows on the Keisaku Doku, right? Keisa, the transmission of the Keisa, that the Kyakushi way of sewing back and forth with every stitch shows us the truth of Buddha's teaching. Immanent in the Kyakushi stitch is the practice and teaching of the Ego Hensho. That is, again, just turn your light inward and reflect. Okay, so that's what it means. Can you do that? No experience is needed. So this way of sewing is a stitch forward and then one backward, as I just explained. We do this way over and over and over. If one has some time for sewing and the vow to make the okesa with deep consideration and full devotion of being there for every stitch, then even an unskilled person can make an okesa. I had, so Shinko taught me how to sew the rakshu, okay, the kesa, and so we have many different classes. So we have the student. He was a carpenter, and but his measurements was way off, and that was kind of interesting. And so it's like if you neglect to say, okay, I know it's like a little off, but all right, I continue. That is just the beginning of maybe the whole thing, like coming a little too much to the right side. So it's really important. And then there's been people calling themselves like 10 thumbs, like they never sewn and they have clumsy hands. They have made some of the most beautiful raksus. And why is that? It's because you see in each stitch, you see a struggle there. And it's like the feeling, of seeing that on coming forth in a cloth is very moving. Then we have people that sewers that just very good at sewing, but it looks mechanical. It does not necessarily produce a beautiful result. So we really can have any ideas of what that sewing is and what our capabilities are. So the rock suit. Oh yeah, that's right. I brought this. It's a small bag because this is called shosane, and shosane means miniature kesas. And I was so lucky to be able to study that with the Doku Sensei again at the Aichi Senmon Minnesota, the nunnery in Nagoya, Japan. And I made this for Nyose because I thought when he travels, he needs to bring his 5-row, 7-row, 9-row kesa. And again, at the Meiji era, trying to boil down everything, that it was a little, cumbersome to carry all those heavy ropes. So it became this miniature. So maybe I can send it around, and you can kind of get a feel and idea of what that is. And classes are done in the future, hopefully it's soon, where you can come and make these. Okay, so maybe. There's so much to be said about the making of the Nyohoi, and Dogen also said that it is inexhaustible to talk about it, and he has talked about it, written about it many places. I haven't found all the material here. Oh yeah, maybe this is important also for the ones who doesn't know the why Dogen got so what's the word, like truly heartfelt, committed to sewing of the Nyohoi and actually bringing that tradition to Japan. So he was actually in China, and he practiced at the Tiantong Monastery. So it was in 1923. So he was what's it, Nyojo, Chendo Nyojo was his teacher there. And so he found the monks in the Soto. So that's like the Sendo was actually traditionally just for sitting and sleeping. So in the morning, they rested the folded okesas, put it on top of their heads, and with the veneration, they chanted early in the morning. Limitless is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction, wearing the Tathagata's teaching, saving all sentient beings. So that's what you have noticed maybe this morning that we did and that is directly inspired from Dogen, his time at the Tiantong. So we say the Kesa verse 3 times before we put it on, and that's what you're supposed to do every time you put on the Nyohoi. So it was the first time Dogen have seen anything like that. So tears of joy was wetting the color of his robe, as he also was so sad that this practice was lost in Japan. So he made a deep vow to do his best to transmit the correct Buddhist Dharma to Japan, to show his countrymen the Buddhist Kesa transmitted from Buddha to Buddha. That was his sincere desire. So those disciples of Buddha who possess a Kesa should venerate it ceaselessly day and night and learn its true merit. So that's Dogen's writing, some of it. Okay. So I don't know if there's any questions at this point.
Kashin, can you talk about the pattern? Is there a specific pattern and history behind the Okesa and the Rakusu?
So you mean, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that. It's actually a rice field. That's really important. Thank you for asking. And there's a little story about how that came about. So about the, what is 2,500 years? It must be more than that now. Shakyamuni Buddha was at the Rajat, a favorite resort of his and the capital of the kingdom of Magadha. At that time, Buddha's disciples wore the same clothes as students of other teachers, so it was very difficult to distinguish between disciples of Buddha and other adherents. So many of them wrapped their bodies with large or small squares of fabric, some white, some made of bright colors, and some with decorations. So one day, Bimbisara, the king of Magadha, noticed a man who looked like a Buddhist monk standing by the road in the distance. The king was getting off his elephant to bow to the Buddhist monk when he noticed that the man was not a Buddhist monk but a Brahmin. So he asked Shakyamuni Buddha to make clothes for his disciples that were symbolic of the practice. So one day when Shakyamuni Buddha was on his way from Rakta to the south to teach with his disciple Ananda, he stopped to take a look at the rice field and noticed its footpaths were formed in a marvelous order and neatness. The rice plants were growing together peacefully with other creatures without any discrimination. So Shakyamuni Buddha pointed to the rice field and asked Ananda if he could create a Buddhist robe for the disciples of Buddha that had the same pattern as those rice fields. So Ananda said that he could and went back to Rajat for the purpose of making this robe. So when Shakyamuni Buddha came back to Rajat, many of his disciples were already practicing with a robe that took its pattern from the rice field. This robe was made of long and short pieces of discarded fabric, dyed and sewn together. So Shakyamuni Buddha respected the wisdom and intelligence that was revealed in the robe Ananda created, because Ananda had understood Shakyamuni Buddha's intention very deeply, even though he had not told him how to make such a robe. So, so that means like the pieces, the narrow pieces here that brings the larger pieces together is called yo, and it is actually the footpath of the rice fields. And so the rice field has irrigation, right? So the way you bring the fields together is that from center on, the water, the irrigation flows. So that means come and learn it next week. So so the middle piece, from the middle piece, the edge of the sewing, so it looks like there's two edges there, but there isn't. That's one. Okay, and that's where the irrigation, the water run off that edge. So this is very important which way it turns. So it's from center to the right and left, and then it's from top it runs down. Eric?
Oh, yes. It's the same stitch you use for that for Rakasu.
It is.
So
It's exactly the same.
And I signed up this morning online.
Great,
Oh,
great.
One guy.
It is, because the Roxu is a miniature, if you will. It's a small version of the Kesa, and it's the 5-row. So the one for work.
How about the little squares on four corners? Do they symbolize or something?
Those are called the gyros. So on the edge, so there's four corners. There's a little square gyro that's put on, and some say, oh, those are the pillars, but I'm not sure. I think they're there to hold it together, to reinforce the piece, the corners from tear, right? Because this one, you often had to go up here and tuck in. So it's a reinforcement, but you can think of it as pillars too. That's beautiful. And talking about the rocksu has a pine needle in the back. So that's a square that hangs down. So when you look at somebody, you see that small square, and there's a pine needle. And that pine needle is interesting. I'm not sure it's a pine needle, but that's what we say it is often. But it's actually called the seimori. I don't know if the right pronunciation, but it's a protector. It's a back protector, not a pine needle necessarily, not the plant, the tree. And it's a kami. So kami is a spirit that a guardian spirit that protects a place, right? So there's many kamis in the ocean too. So it's like a kami, a back protector. And actually, I hope they still do it in Japan and other places. On the children's clothing, they put a little stitch. Maybe it doesn't necessarily look like exactly that pine needle that's on the rocksu, but they put that on to protect the children, right? From the back, it's often put in the back, and I just thought it was wonderful. And it's out of this. So it's old style. So it's out of this grandmotherly kindness. Right? Grandmotherly kindness is very important. Mimitsu no kafu, that gentleness. I think I'm going over time. No, it's exactly no. So thank you so much for listening. And come and sew.